So the title of my session, of course, is My Dog Tweets and Bringing Personality to Twitter. So to begin with, just in the obvious initial question, yes, my dog does tweet, or at least I tweet on behalf of a character that I've built based around my dog. So I'm going to share a little bit about that with you guys today. So let's meet him. This is James Bond the dog. He is at James Bond the dog on Twitter, and yes, he is a doggy spy. Or at least that's the way the story goes. So James Bond, he's currently assigned to a mission in Savannah, Georgia. Previously, he had some assignments in Paris, France, and prior to that in New York City. So he's kind of a global, international type dog. And he's also a hound dog at the same time, which poses an interesting problem for a spy because, of course, as a hound dog, he likes to spend a bulk of his time taking naps. So it tends to interrupt some of the missions from time to time. Also, as a spy, he does love the ladies a lot. And he does have his collection of what he calls his Bond girls, most of whom are in the canine variety. There's a few humans tossed in there, but they're few and far between. But this is a group of folks that he likes to talk about a lot on Twitter. So before you think I'm completely crazy, let's just step back for a minute and talk about what this is really all about. Really, it's about bringing fiction to Twitter. And when we do that, we get one of these TWI words. This is something that I call Twiction. And I'm really going to try to explain a little bit about how to actually get involved in Twiction for yourself. So this is really kind of an interesting approach to storytelling. And I think storytelling is, of course, something that's been going on since the beginning of humanity, certainly. But when we throw technology into the mix, it changes the stories that we tell and the way that we tell them. So Twitter, as far as social mediums go, is definitely a very unique platform for storytelling because it's in very digestible, sort of quick snippets. So they've given you your parameters. You've got 140 characters to work with. And from there, it's really about creating kind of an ongoing story that can live for as long as you want it to. And of course, for brands, there's also some interesting possibilities. And that's something I think a lot about in my work, of course. And it's very logical for an entertainment property or like a movie or a TV show to get involved and create a character in this manner. But we're even seeing consumer brands doing this kind of thing. Take the Travelocity roaming gnome. Really fun Twitter account to follow, and you can follow all of his adventures all over the world. So definitely a lot for brands. But for you guys here today, I'm going to give you kind of my inside sort of 10 best practices to creating your own Twiction account for yourself, your animal perhaps, or maybe even your business. So step one, definitely the most important step, is really around developing your character. This is really kind of what you do before you get started with an actual Twitter account. And you want to kind of make a character sketch of who this character is, what they're all about, things that they like, things that they don't like, and ultimately the way that they speak. So what kind of language is your character going to use? Are they going to spell all of their words correctly? Those are things that you need to decide right off the bat. And of course, in the case of James Bond the dog, he does have some British heritage, so he's very proper in his English, doesn't misspell words, and often throws a little British slang in there just for fun. So step two is really around always staying in character. So no matter what you're doing, whether it's a private direct message that you're sending on Twitter, don't let that story go. You want to remain in character to help kind of further your story. And let's see. Step three, definitely want to be conversational. For James Bond the dog, of course, it comes very naturally to him, especially if we're talking about being conversational with someone of the female variety. But he is always responsive to anyone who writes to him on Twitter. And that's really important because we're talking about a social medium. It's not just about pushing out the content, pushing out the story. It's also about some interaction, and maybe it's asking questions to his followers or getting involved somehow in conversations. That's really important. So step 4, this is really something that a lot of people never think about. You may not be aware that if you try to go back and access your old tweets, they're actually often not available. Sometimes the furthest back you can go is 2 weeks, maybe a little bit further, but you really want to keep an ongoing record of your data and your Twitter account. You never know, what you might want to use this content for later on down the road. So I recommend something like Tweet Backup, or there's a whole bunch of different services out there that you can use. And so the next step, often when people get involved in a Twiction account, they decide, you know what, I want to go beyond Twitter. I want to do something with video, or I want to get on Facebook. And so just remember to consider your audience, because when you move from Twitter to even Facebook, your audience changes and the content needs to kind of change with it as well. So number 6, this is an area where I personally have a lot of fun, and it's really around trending topics. And this is a way to kind of keep your character very relevant to things that are happening. Even if it's a Follow Friday hashtag, which a lot of people get involved in, it's a great opportunity, again, to really stay in character. James Bond the dog often will shout out some of his favorite Bond girls of the week, for example, on Follow Friday. He also has gotten involved in certain issues. The oil spill, of course, has been a huge topic on Twitter lately, as it has been everywhere. So he's actually been talking about really his kind of number 1 Bond girl, which is not really by choice, but really the humans in his life have brought another animal into the house. It's a female border collie. Her name's Julep, and he writes a lot about her because she drives him crazy. But she's got a lot of hair to her, and there's been this huge drive to collect hair to send it to the Gulf. So he has very graciously volunteered to just pack up this animal and ship her down to the Gulf. So trending topics, good thing to get involved in. Number 7, another thing that happens a lot on Twitter is really around sort of virtual events that will take place. And within the animal community on Twitter, and yes, there is a very sizable community of animals and animal lovers on Twitter, there's regular events that might be around a certain holiday or an animal's birthday, but they're always for a good cause. And James Bond the dog always tries to make an appearance, and whenever possible, certainly donate some of his Doggy Spy salary to some of these charities. So number 8, and this really goes for any kind of Twitter account that you're creating, don't let bots do your job. There's a lot of people out there trying to hype up these things that will, try to build your follower counts or do things on your behalf. And Twitter ultimately is all about relationships, and you can't automate a relationship. So just say no to bots. Number 9, just remember, even as kind of a fun, entertaining sort of Twitter account, it still is a huge time investment. And there's a lot that goes into it as far as monitoring and keeping the content fresh on a regular basis. So just something for you guys to remember before you embark on your own Twiction account, to remember the time investment. And finally, I have a lot of fun with my James Bond the dog account. And it's opened up a lot of different doors and different relationships with people that I probably never would have met otherwise. So as you guys embark on your own projects, have a great time. Keep me posted on them. I'd love to follow you and check them out. So many thanks.